Well, after watching those wonderful performances, it's a great pleasure now to have a discussion with the dancers and the two dance scholars that we have here today. So I think I'll ask Priyadarshini to go ahead and start off our discussion, because I think she might have a few specific questions for the dancers, and then we'll all jump in and have a more enriching discussion. So go ahead, Priyadarshini.
Thank you so much, Sreyashi. I must begin this saying that it's such exciting times, and to see, the younger generation coming out with such interesting work. And three were so different, yet there were new elements, some within the uh, framework of the classical, and things developing within the classical. So it was fabulous watching all the three performances. So, Bindu, let me start with this. When we discuss the classical dances, we hardly use the word natya for an item or a piece. So, really it was a pretty enlightening thought that Sapatam is a natya format. Though, it has come down to a 20-minute, half an hour piece today, but it used to happen over the, duration of the whole night. So, and I see that you have incorporated a lot of things which is from the theatrical form, Kudiyattam, into the Saptam. And so, my question is, would you do that with all your items, or would you say that that can be used for the Natya form?
First and foremost, thank you so much for having me on this festival. I'm really grateful to Rasa and all of you who have invited me. So really grateful. Thank you for that. So Priyadarshini ji, coming to your question, Saptam is characterized by storytelling. Traditionally, and it involves a combination of nritta, hastamudras, and abhinaya. So with the combination of anga, upanga, rasa, and bhava, and it combining together through sattvam, or the sattvic aspect, we get to the connection or the essence of that storytelling. The reason I want to talk about the sattvam, I'll explain a little later. So Saptam, as you know, being a Mohiniyattam artist yourself, is the seventh item. Now, Kerala has a tantric connection. We are very connected to Tantra and Tantra Yoga. And based on that, the Kundalini moves from the Mooladhara to the Sahasrara. Now, coincidentally, the Sahasrara is also known as Saptam. So this space is the union of the male and female energies. And you used a beautiful word when you asked me this question, enlightening. So the reason, main aim of a Saptam is to be enlightened, to let that lotus or that bliss affect you. Now, within the tradition of Mohiniyattam repertoire, in the indigenous olden times, the abhinaya was there, it was very inherent, and it is part of the Mohiniyattam repertoire. In fact, my guru, Nirmala teacher herself, has choreographed around 10 saptams, and she was telling me recently how saptam was an item that the mother of Mohiniyattam, Kalyani Kuttiyamma teacher, was taught by Krishna Panikkar. So, Saptam, in essence, even though it is storytelling, there are a lot of elements that it is that last tumbu we say, where that point of enlightenment. So it incorporates an elevated level of everything. So Natya incorporates everything. So it is that elevated level of abhinaya that you see in Saptam. And you allude to Kudiyattam. Now, Kudiyattam again uses the Hastalakshana Deepika. All the Kerala traditions use the same treaties, and so that you will see similarities. But I personally don't think that there are elements of Kudiyattam in what I did. It's I think an elevated level of Abhinaya using drishti, using mudras. I hope that answers your questions, Priyadarshini ji.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Especially the eyes and, you know, what we train in Kudiyattam and we haven't yet done really in Mohiniyattam so far. You know, Nirmala Chechi does, but I learned the Ramasapatam from Amma, but there wasn't elaborate, which is why my question was there. Let me come to Devasri and Shohin. Of course, you know, your traditional bits, I've been seeing you over long period of time. What was very interesting is your camera eye in the performance. Now, my question was, if you were doing a live stage presentation, how would you bring in this camera eye with your, I mean, is it easy? Have you done it? So that was my question.
Good stuff. Yes, we haven't. We have made, I think this time we have made use of this Rasa Festival. Thank you. So that is why I would first like to thank the Rasa Festival that we thought of making use of this opportunity, basically. And it is an opportunity, I would say, because we are now, as a stage performer, we are always looking at the stage and the audience. So we have a different kind of view. But now, and we have always been thinking of how to highlight certain parts to the audience, if it is possible. We wish we could, highlight, we wish we could zoom in. So I think this time we tried to, because it is an entirely new subject and we hardly know anything about the camera and the lens. It is only in our thoughts and ideas that we think, I wish it looked like this. And the outcome was much different than what we thought it would be. So I think it's an attempt.
Yeah. Actually, camera, it does magic. It shows an extended reality, I guess. And if you remember, this was way back in 2002. Both Vikram and I, we did a piece where we incorporated multimedia. Bahuda, yes. So there we got this film done, and that was projected on the screen. And at the same time, two bodies were there on stage. So it was, Bahuda means multiplicity. So we were trying to show the different facets of Kathak, celebrating Kathak as a form. But as audience, when we sit there and watch a performance, we tend to miss on the subtle nuances, the very detail of the angas. So there, that was because of that concept. We did that film so that it was projected so that audience can see those, those purity of the movements. Maybe the camera magnifies it.
Yeah.
The camera never lies. And maybe, the camera, what happens, what I want the audience to see, I think the camera helps us to do that. It might not happen in a live proscenium show because, again, audience feels distracted. Maybe I just want to show them a movement of a finger or just an eye expression. Maybe, the audience misses that. But this was an opportunity. Yeah, so this was an opportunity.
Especially in Baul.
Yes. For Baul also, because Baul was based on Abhinay. And again, the focus was on the, the expressional parts, those very detailed, subtle nuances. So camera, I mean, we use this medium, but we don't know about this medium. It's just like saying hello. Even 20 years back, Vikram and I said just hello, and then there was a long gap, and then again, because of this situation,
filmmaker.
Yeah. So there was an extra filmmaker that time. But, you know, we were so excited. I mean, you know, to incorporate the other discipline. But yeah, so I mean, let's see.
Thank you.
And yeah, so it's actually we don't know whether what we are going to do in future, but it depends on the intention, Priyadarshini. It depends on the concept, what we intend to do. Maybe we intend to show, you know, something. I mean,
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
yes,
Because
that and
if a
focus.
certain theme demands it,
Yes, we'll do it. We'll do it. Yes.
But not for
I'm
the
going to
sake
look.
of.
Yes, just for not for
I'm
the
going
sake
to
of
look
it.
forward to a performance where I see both on stage for you. Okay, let me come to Meera. So again, how beautifully, Ramachandra has been done as a Vatsalya. We only see the form as bhakti. So would you also use the same poem in the Rati?
First of all, namaskaram to one and all. Thank you so much for making me a part of this beautiful festival. Coming to your question, ma'am, Rati, I really doubt because it's Rama and he was Ekapatni person. So maybe I will have to think about the context. It's all about the context, isn't it? Even in here, the Kausalya, it's like here the main thing is she is not delivering the whole Sri Ramachandra, the whole bhajan as it is. Let's say it is something somewhere being, sung, and she's being taken into her own memories and reminiscences with Rama. So it's not a first person voice in the song. It's mostly like, being taken into a journey because she's hearing something and getting carried away. So, thinking about Rama and the whole bhajan as it is, Tulsidas as he wrote it, I'm not sure whether I'll take it for Rati. Maybe many, the artists can come up with different ideas. But would you use?
Sorry, would you use say Sita as the character like you used Kaushalya hearing about Rama? Would you use the same bhava say for Sita?
Maybe.
Explore it.
Maybe. Depends. It depends on the lines we take. Again, it says about the Janaki coming and being his wife. Yeah, we can actually tweak a bit and work over it. Yes. So it's all up to the artistic freedom and how we can.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a possibility.
So I would someday maybe look forward to it seeing the Rati Bhav also in the same bhajan.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you again. Let me, hand over to Sreyashi with further questions.
Thank you. Those were wonderful, very specific questions to the dancers, and how wonderful it is that because of technology, because of this medium, we are able to not only watch performances by dancers in such a close way. By close, I mean, as Debashri and Rohini were also saying, highlighting, zooming in, highlighting, whether it's the face, whether it's the feet or hastas or hands. Not only are we able to see that, we're also able to hear the dancers, their voices, and what their thinking is. So this is undoubtedly a really good impact that moving to the online medium has allowed us. So, okay, so moving on now to perhaps slightly more general questions about the practice of dance. I'll invite Pallabi now to ask some of her questions before I move on to mine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sreyashi. And I really would like to say that I applaud you for doing the Rasa Festival as well as bringing all of us together, in different parts of the world on the same platform. And also it's really wonderful to see the younger generation continuing with the forms, and doing interesting work. So yeah, I thought that I will ask more of the way I'm looking at it, like Priyadarshini asked you something of a grasshopper's view, very close view, and asked the questions from that place. My questions will come from a bird's eye view, right? More overall, and I'm asking the same questions to all of you. And so you can answer it any way you like and take the questions any way you like also. So the first question I had was, it's also coming from my own understanding of dance and my research on dance and Indian classical dance, contemporary dance, that what is the relationship? Do you think that as the younger, performers, that there should be any relationship when you're choreographing, working on your new pieces, any relationship between dance history, the social history of Indian classical dance, and what you're creating? Is it important to know how much of the social history do you know? Is it important to do that kind of research? Because there is that aesthetic research that you guys have been talking about, but contextualizing it within the larger aspect of Indian society and who we are, how we relate to all of these things. Is that important at all in terms of when you're making the work? Do you think about those things? Have you done any research on those aspects, right? None of this happened in the vacuum, right? When you are talking about Tantra, when you're talking about Tulsidas, when you're talking, even the pieces like the Baul, all of them have a social identity. All of these things have a social context. It developed in a particular milieu with various different forces. Now, is it necessary at all to know that, to do that research as well as looking at the aesthetics that you have been doing? I don't know if this is a really large, that's why I said, like, answer it any way you like. There's no right or wrong, or maybe you've done a lot of this work. So how would you take this question? Where will you go with this?
Okay, I'll start. So I think understanding dance history is paramount if you want to create provoking work, that thoughtful work. I'll just give two examples. Nirmala teacher, for instance, has revived Chandanam, Eshal, Poli, Kuratti. These are all dance forms that were relegated away, hidden away in the bushes, so to speak, because of the sensual or the erotic illusions that were there to it. So when, as a result of the social reform during that independence time, and to give Mohiniyattam a new identity, these dances were kind of hidden away. What Nirmala teacher has done is looked at them and placed them in a context that provokes thought of situations and things and people and revive them. And so they become relevant in that space. Recently, I created another work on climate change, Prithvi Tattvam. Again, I went back to the Vedas to understand where that thought, where did it originate from? Because we talk a lot about sustainability, we talk a lot about climate change, but these are not new ideas or new things. They've existed and people have done work on that and they have a foundation. So unless we understand where we come from in every perspective, so where do we come from in dance, where we are placed in history, our landscape, our everything, because everything influences the dance, I don't think we can move forward in a thoughtful manner that provokes people to understand or to react or to provoke that thinking.
Yeah, anybody.
Go ahead. Anybody, yes.
So we'll take the first part, Pallabi. Is knowledge of Indian dance history important for dancers and choreographers? So we have just divided it. She's going to speak on behalf of the dancers, and I'm going to say on choreographers. Yeah.
Yeah. Just so that we are not talking together.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just making a very general statement because always we are talking of dancers. Dance is a subject like any other subject. So I always tell my students that don't be random. Don't make a random comment about dance, music. It is a subject to me as important as physics or chemistry or English. So to know that subject, I need to go back to the roots. And to go back to the roots, I have to know the history. And especially for a creative subject, I think as even as a dancer, if I'm not going into the choreography and I'm just concerned mastering my movements, looking at the body, looking at the movements, and just preserving the tradition as it is, even if I'm not, even then I think just learning the movements, then it will be just learning the movements. It will be incomplete, superficial, because I won't be able to see the growth, the rise, fall, the evolution, and my movements will be static and not be growing, because it is just like I think music, because we are taught if you want to do the tar saptak, if you want to be, you have to practice riyaz. So I think the more we want to develop, we have to go back in this other direction. So it is important as a dancer.
Yes, it's important, Pallavi, for both dancers and choreographers. Now, history, it gives us not only data, simple data, and tells us stories. It speaks, I think, volumes about the artists, about the gurus. And if I speak about Kathak, it speaks volumes about the courtesans, the wives, the contribution that they have made. And Paulovidi, right now I have your book with me, The Bells of Change, because we are doing a research on the courtesans, their contribution. So if we don't know that history, if we don't know their uniqueness in their work, their contribution, their investment. So it's not only the gurus, it's not only the artists, it's also the courtesans. So if you don't know all that, then I think the training is incomplete. So as choreographers, so I did last year. Last year I did choreography called Niravadhi. It was on sound and silence. So and it was related to nature. And for that, again, I had to go back to the roots, the evolution of how this world happened. What is our relationship with nature? Who are we as humans? So again, going back to the roots. And again,
we did the same.
Yes, and for the baul also, Pallavi, we did the same thing. So baul is actually
ongoing.
Yes, it's ongoing. So it's Shobdogan. It's Shobdogan. It's the perfect words. So again, going back to the roots and listening. So it's about those words. So we have to listen and listen and listen and then contemplate. So we started this baul. I mean, we started this project way back in 2013. So it's been 10 years now. So every time we are listening, we are finding something new, and it's I mean, reading and researching. So it's there. So it's history, and it's about roots. We have to go back, and again, একটা কোথাও ফাঁকি থেকে যাবে, it will be incomplete. The training will be incomplete. And again, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think they have answered what I have to tell. So, for a dancer, the responsibility comes only when we understand what our ancestors have done, and we carry their sweat and blood. So, otherwise, it's just just going to a class and coming back. So, if you need to create, as Binduji said, provoking work, or to do something responsible, you need to be responsible. Basically, for that, you need to understand where we come from, what were happening before, how did it come till here. So yes, it is a must, and I think now it's all coming up, it's being very relevant, and every dancer is going into it and learning about it, and I'm so happy about it. And if talking about the research about a particular work which we do, something beautiful came to my mind. One of the scholars once said that any work which is piece, if it is a already set piece, not a like a new which you with the music and all which you work and do, but if you have a composition already, let's say a poem or poetry, so the poetry has been written by a poet, so he or she gave the birth already, so he or she is the parent or the guardian. Now you are the one who is marrying, you are like the spouse, you are the, so who who has the more responsibility, who has the the that's my baby, sorry. Who has the the what do you say, who can decide what to do and what not to do. It's a very thin line. So when I take a Tulsidas bhajan, whether I can do this like this, whether I cannot do this, it's a very thin line which I'm walking on. So yes, we have to be responsible and understand what he or she would have thought when they gave birth to it. Be responsible to it and carry it forward in the most responsible way, I guess. That's all. Yeah. Thank you.
I just wanted to say one thing. Thank you all for your answers. They were really splendid answers. And it's obvious that you are all thinking about it and, looking at some of the history and where these things are coming from. I just want to flag one thing, a couple of things, two things maybe. One is that history is contested, right? There is not one history. There are multiple histories. And that's where from the academic context of this, if you look at it from the context of critical history, then you will see that there are multiple strands, and the questions of whose voice do you want to highlight in the particular kind of history that you are interested in. And the other question that also becomes quite difficult a lot of times, especially with Indian dance, Indian classical dance, because some of it is considered ancient. And when you actually look at it, it is not at all ancient. But the Shastric aspects of it, that they have been textualized for a particular purpose, for giving it a particular kind of history. Our traditions are not textual histories. Our traditions are oral. As you as dancers know, that you learn how you learn. It's not like it has been codified and notified like in ballet, and it's a very different form of learning. So the other question is this of roots itself is not quite clear, right? Roots, it's also is a claim, because nobody can say that we all agree that this is the root. If you put 5 people together, they will say, no, this is not my root, because India is so diverse. None of us can claim that this is the root of India, that this is where all of this knowledge is coming from, because somebody else will say, no, not for my tradition, this is not the root. So I think that we have to be, when we are saying these things, to actually have these nuances. I'm sure you guys are thinking about it as young dancers, that how these things are layered and contested, that it is not universal root. India doesn't, you can claim, we have claimed, people have tried to impose these things on Indian dances, but it is quite fractured and fragmented once you start looking at it. So that's what I thought I would just say, because you guys are already doing this kind of archaeological work, right? Digging. So this kind of digging is hard. It's really hard. And you will, once you really start to dig, you will see how difficult it is to actually create clear narratives of the past, because we don't really have a lot of written down histories also. The idea of history writing itself is this linear history writing is a Western concept. India didn't have this kind of history writing. So many times in Indian dance, mythology and history gets merged together. People don't even understand that that's myth. That's not history, right? The way we think about social history, it has some kind of a reality. It's not, so the mythological aspects and a history kind of converges often in our dance training. And just to kind of flag those aspects for us, and when we are teaching, I think is also important. So anyway, I think I'll just stop here because I think we've done the discussion, right? I mean, my second question kind of followed the first. I'll just ask Sreyashi to go ahead with her. Okay, question. One thing, okay, before I do that, just one other thing I would like to say is that I really enjoyed, and this is the most important thing, I think also, that I really enjoyed watching your dances, and the way I realized that now that we are in this camera realm, that everybody's thinking about this platform, that how beautifully the abhinaya was projected. A lot of times that, on stage, nobody can actually see what you're doing. And all the nuances and the abhinayas were, and also the way, the camera worked for each one of you, what you were trying to say, that how beautifully that could be projected. And I think that dance is entering that phase. This is something else that you guys might want to think about, is that, when technology enters this particular kind of space, that whether the videographer becomes more important than the dancer itself, because editing will transform. I mean, camera lies. Camera actually lies. So you can edit and transform everything. Like, a person who has no training in dance can look like, has been trained for 50 years. It has happened in music. Music and technology is the biggest field, right? And people don't need to train in classical Indian music to become musicians anymore. So that's going to happen to dance, I think. It's almost happening, that videographers and technology people will be very much dependent on them. So just think about that. That's another perhaps thing that we need to also become a little more knowledgeable about, how the camera works. But I thought it was really enjoyable to see, how you guys were using that camera and this platform, and just bringing the audience into your space. So I'll stop here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Those were really,
Thank you.
Yeah, very important questions and very important and interesting reflections and observations by the dancers. So actually, my question, it almost leads from what we were just discussing, which is I want to talk a little bit about the regional identities of the classical dancers. So we have all these different classical dance forms in India. And again, historically, we know how several of them were reconstructed, like a post-colonial reconstruction of the forms. So yes, there were, traditions from before. There were living traditions. There was a history, but a lot of it was also reconstructed. And in my case, being an Odissi dancer, for example, I'll just give one example, which is that after India's independence in 1947, in the 1950s, there were actually gurus and practitioners and musicians, historians, they all came together. They looked at the temple sculptures, they looked at some of the continuing living traditions, they looked at some of these old texts, and they created this form in the way we see it now. So I think that is true of all the styles. So two things here. One is that through this process, and there are new forms that are coming up even now, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, even in recent times, from Assam, Hotria was recognized as a classical form. So similarly, there would be others, perhaps, and there's been a history there. There's a timeline of when what was recognized as a particular classical dance. So my question is twofold. One is about the regional identity and how important you all think is how important it is to preserve and keep the so-called purity of that regional identity of the classical dance, because even if you take a very superficial, cursory look at what is happening, even like visually, as I said, very cursory look, even in terms of the aharya. So there's quite a blurring of even that. You know, when the styles first developed, it was very important that it was the look and feel and everything of that particular region, because it also got associated with regional pride and a sense of identity and that culture. But if you look now, if you look at even the aharya, you know, the way people are draping the saris, or the way, you know, they're doing away with very specific head, you know, whether it's flowers, whether it's whatever it is. So today, if I look at a very contemporary, say an Odissi dancer or a Bharatanatyam dancer, or somebody, you know, I'm just by looking at them, I may not even know which style it is. There may be some elements of a particular jewelry or something, but even that, there's a trend toward, you know, simplification of that. So do you think that this is kind of like a merging of identities, or looking towards more of a universal, trying to find the dance in through all these cultural regional identities? How do you feel about that? That's one part of it. And the other part of the question is, even within the boundaries of your own classical style, do you think that there have been changes? You know, because all of you have been, you know, varying degrees, but have been learning and practicing for several years. So during the course of your own dance career, have you seen changes in the technique and in how dance is presented? Even within I'm not talking about, you know, going into more contemporary or innovation. I'm saying even within the classical form, because I observe that. I see certain trends, and whether we call it that general big bucket term of globalization or not, but definitely people are watching more, because again, because of technology, we are able to watch so much dance, whether it's global, whether it's nationally in India, different styles. So things obviously are bound to influence. So how important is that purity? So these were like two parts of my question.
Personally, I think our aharya should be, as you said, you know, it should be able to be distinguished. I think one of the, personally again, nicest things that Kalamandalam did was to put the hair on the side, because it created kind of an identity for Mohiniyattam. I'm not saying that the back tying is incorrect or anything, but that identity and the costuming, the white fabric with the border and all the different colors that's coming now is beautiful as well. But it gives that what we say Kerala Tanima, that essence of Kerala to the art form, because the movements itself is very much taken from the Kerala landscape. There is a beautiful saying which Ilam Katil Ulanidam Pinju Nelchedigal Pole Mriduvai Varanam Deha Chalanam Nartagikya. It means just like the swaying of the paddy grass in the soft monsoon, that breeze, the movement of the dancer must be like that for Mohiniyattam. So there is so much influence from all around. And I think it goes back to Pallabi ji's question about that history again here, you know, how much connection do we want to keep while we look for innovations, and while we look for changes, and while we look to not cross boundaries, but extend our boundaries of our art form to bring in those beautiful innovations and all those beautiful things that we want to allow our art form to grow. I think for me personally, everything is related, and so it makes sense to me to connect to everything for Mohiniyattam that is related to Kerala?
I think I'm going to start with technique. What is this technique? Uh, technique for us. I mean, we were having a lot of discussion, and we have been having this discussion for the past 10 years, 10, 12 years, because Sanjog is such a place. I mean, we reflect a lot. We have a conversation with our form. We have a conversation. Between us with the form, and so technique for us, technique doesn't change. Technique is grammar. So what is grammar? So the physical concepts of Kathak. So what is that? So what is the vertical stance? And what are the other physical concepts? The heavy grounded feet. The upper part of the body is light. The lower and the feet is very grounded. So one has to things, I think. Yes. So this we have to keep that in mind. The physical concepts, that is the grammar. So over the years with training, when one, I think, have a grip on the vocabulary, on the grammar, and then one can extend, mold, modify the form. And coming to the aharya, Sreyashi, if you see the baul, what we have done in baul, we have used the skirt. I mean, we do the traditional costume is lehenga. So we have used a skirt. Modified modified. Yes, it's a modified form. We have worn a jacket and a jacket. So it's just to keep the flow. If you see the baul concept, there is a flow in the song. There's a rhythm. So keeping that, we have modified it. But the stance, the main thing is the stance of Kathak, the grammar of Kathak. I think we have kept to that. And we have explored keeping the foundation strong. Yeah.
So I think about the regional identity, what I would want to mention here is we are from Kolkata and learning a form which is from North India. And so link east, we are on the eastern side and we have specialized on a form that developed on the westernmost part, that is the Rajasthan, Jaipur Gharana, and of course then Lucknow Gharana. So both. So there itself lies, I would say, no contradiction, because we learned it in such a manner that we never felt that we have to, okay, now we are really far from this. We learned it. And now I think as we keep growing, keep understanding the language, we do realize that we are part of a bigger family. As you said very correctly, that we are dancing. So the techniques, we have a Kathak body. She has a Mohiniyattam body. Now, whatever movement I'm going to do in Kathak. But whether I have been given a pada from the, in Tamil or in Uriya, I think I will be able to do justice from the point of view of my form, because I have had a considerably rooted training, understanding, because we have had the good fortune of having a guru who was very open and kept questioning, and she kept questioning herself, self-doubting, questioning, and
also encouraged us to question a lot.
And that nothing
about the form.
You don't put a full stop. You only know that yes, this is the cycle. This you cannot go out of, but within the gamut of that, you are free if you know the language. First, you have to know the language, understand, make small sentences, make a paragraph, learn how to write an essay, and then I think you can write a book which can be translated in any language.
Because it's a Kathak informed body. We know no other language.
Yeah,
we know no other language.
So that way, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you. Meera, do you have something to add to this?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether I'm in terms with whatever they have been talking, because everything started with Bharatam, like everything was one, and then it became Karnatakam, the dance, and then the North. Then, so as you said, it's the political thing, which, the regional, you have to have a regional taste. So it's something that has evolved in time. Everything was one in the beginning. Yeah, even if you see today, what even if I talk in terms of Bharatanatyam was never like structured in lines and straight lines. No, it was. We also used to have Tribhanga. We also used to have bhangas and all. So it's something which has been changing, and change is the only constant. So it has to keep changing, I feel. And it's if I want to say, like, the story of the sambar itself. The sambar, the curry, which is the South Indian, like a typical South Indian curry, which we say came from Maharashtra, and the dancers took it to from Maratha to the Tanjore Court. So, and now it became, South Indian curry. See, that is the thing. So we can't say anything about it, and it's as they said, as I know only Bharatanatyam right now. My body speaks Bharatanatyam, so whatever I'll be doing will be of that language. But creating newness to just force creation of just to say that I want to do something new is dangerous. I fear, if the concept or the context requires it, you can be in that grammar and produce something beautiful. And I'm not so fond of bold lines, boundaries dividing this. I feel everything is just beautiful and the way it is, and it keeps evolving. So we can't say maybe in 20 years it will be something else. It is the need of the art. So yeah, that's what I feel. That's my humble opinion. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, yeah, I mean, I originally had another question about the use of technology and how we are all as dancers approaching technology, but I think we have kind of discussed that already, that it's allowing us to think of our dance in different ways. It's encouraging us and almost forcing us to think about the aspect of how we are presenting it, how it is being captured by camera and digital and all of that. So I think we've discussed that. So yeah, so I think that was a wonderful, enriching discussion with all of you, and I really want to thank the three dancers and our two wonderful dance scholars here. Thank you to all of you for being a part of our Rasa Festival. It has been an absolute joy to put together this showcase and to hear from all of you, watch you perform, and this very stimulating discussion. So thank you again, and hope to see you again soon in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.